Maybe we could start with people putting their cameras. We just say hi, we just wave. At least you can confirm we are not robots here. Those who are here, so you can just say hi. Hi everyone, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for putting your videos. Yeah, it's just always nice when we are able to start together. Hi, it's good to see you everyone. Karibuni sana, welcome, welcome. We're really looking forward for such a great time tonight.
Yes, and so I know it is East Africa. We have our brothers and sisters from Dar es Salaam, Arusha, Tanzania. We have our brothers and sisters from Kampala, Uganda, Luwero. We have our brothers and sisters from Rwanda, Burundi, and Addis Ababa. All the East African countries are here. We also have friends from diaspora, our brothers and sisters who stay abroad, and they are still have roots in East Africa. So they are all joining us. And so we have people of all walks. In the past, we've had several talks on parenting, as we know it is challenging to raise up awesome kids in this corrupt generation. And so we are having this support group to be an encouragement to each other as we get to battle through. You know, in Africa, we say it takes a whole village to raise up a child.
True.
That is basically what we are trying to do. And so we are trying to have East African village to help us raise our children in this generation.
Amen.
Yes, and as we had shared, today we have a very special time, because we are going to be looking on one of those topics that are driving the world crazy, and that is the social media. And sometimes we ask ourselves, how is it? Some of us are pro social media, others are anti-social media. I believe by the time we are going to be leaving this meeting, we'll get that strike balance on where exactly do we need to be. And so today we are so privileged that we are going to have a very special guest, a guest whose thongs I'm unworthy to untie. And so I'm gonna invite Munyuwiny. Sam Munyuwiny is one of us. He's been here with us for some time. He knows in and out of our forum. He's taught us some great classes in the past. He's a brother that we respect deeply because of just his love for God and his love for the work that he does. And so God has also elevated him. You know, the Bible says, have you seen a man dedicated in his work? He will work before the kings. And so Sam is one of those who is serving at very high level. And so we are great to have him. But Sam said that I'll pull along another big fish with me. So Sam, can you take it away and tell us who you have for us today?
Yes, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Mike, for that very generous introduction. And Liz, you know, when you talk about pulling fish, for people who are in Kampala and near the lake, they may just confuse us with the Mbuta, the Nile perch. But it is indeed a privilege. I will briefly introduce myself, or maybe those we haven't met. But I think for many of us, we've been privileged to share the space in the Kingdom of God, the ICOC, the International Churches of Christ. I know there are a few friends who were invited beyond the church, so feel very welcome. This is something, like Mike has mentioned, it's about the family. We do something very good in Africa called Ubuntu. I am because you are, you know, so your children are as good as mine are taken care of. So don't just think about yours, and that's why we are here together. As I share my screen, well, I work with the African Institute for Children's Studies. It is a non-profit that is registered in Kenya. I'm among the founder members, and also in Uganda. We have an office there, so my brothers and sisters from there. I hope we can do a bit more together in Zimbabwe and also in South Sudan and recently in the US. We do a lot of work on research and policy influencing around children and child protection, and online media or online space is definitely one of those that is very, very critical. So I'll be sharing some of the experiences based on our research work. Some of it as recent as last year with Meta, that is Facebook. And I think they're very interesting things that are emerging that we want to give us as tools that we can use to do this. In the space on child protection, it's often very small. So you keep finding yourself with almost same people. And so I'm glad Evelyn was willing to come on board. Evelyn is, while we are in that small group of online and safety enthusiasts, she really stands out for me as one who understands the tools, has worked with platforms like Google, Meta, TikTok, and many others. I will allow her to just briefly mention some of those platforms and what they are doing. And she's a founder of Evelyn, and welcome, Evelyn. Kindly introduce yourself a little bit more.
Wow, I think you've said. Thank you so much for having me here on this is a very interesting Friday night. I had to seek permission to be here because it is a family movie night, so I have to make up for that. I love working around children, the ecosystem of the child, but I acknowledge through my work, as I started doing it back in 2012, that children do not live in a vacuum or in a bubble. So every time I teach children, I always seek to empower those people who support children. So from the family unit to the schools, and then of course we work with government and these big platforms that are bringing their services to the access of our children. So to just make sure that everybody understands what their role is when it comes to safeguarding children. I am a mother. I love to cook when I am not teaching. I really love to cook. I might not eat as much, but I really love to cook. So I'm really happy to be here. I hope as I speak very many things, because I know I will say so many things, I just want you to do two things for me. One is to drop any guilt that you might have. For you, maybe you're feeling that, the social media and raising your children, it's very overwhelming. I hope you will drop that guilt and know how to progress in terms of supporting your children. And number two, and I will teach you as we go, I want you to stop being a firefighter. So I think for me, those will be my two outcomes that I would really love to pass across as I teach. Yeah.
Wow, thank you, Evelyn. I've listened to you a number of times, as recent as Wednesday this week, and it's never enough. So I'm looking forward to this. So we'll be having really we'll try and make a very interactive session. One, I will take us through very few slides, just telling us how big is this world and that there's a lot of opportunity. I know earlier on, we were saying with Evelyn, we must stop throwing all the bad eggs around and saying, this thing is bad, because the truth is, this is the future, it is the present, it is here to stay, and we better know how to live with it positively. Then we will look at some of the things that work for parents, also what doesn't work, what are some of the common mistakes. I think Evelyn will begin pointing out some of those, having this panicky, a lot of guilt and a lot of reactive. The other day you were talking about snooping. If you can bring out some of that, we want to go behind and check what are. By the way, I realize some of us is not only for our children, even for our partners. We go into adult phones and snoop. Maybe there's a better way of living with social media. And then there are tools that exist, especially. I think when you speak to Google, when you speak to Meta and all these platforms, you realize there's been a lot of effort towards providing tools that people can use. Again, I approach social media and child protection. It's much the same way you'll approach it in your daily lives, that we'll have to walk in the street. You will never keep your children throughout in your house. They'll have to go to school, they'll have to go shopping at some point. They will need to leave your house. So, I begin telling my children when they get 18, get ready to leave my house, but then they have to be equipped. for that, because then they will meet everyone with different backgrounds. And that's exactly what it is there. So instead of saying don't walk in the street, is how do you walk safely in the street? And I think the streets online on that. And then also look, what can you use as parents to be able to have a healthy use of that? We'll allow questions, perhaps even more time than the 30 minutes we've written. Thank you for those who've completed the form. We've received some of that. We'll try and respond to them. And again, during the presentation, feel free to put in the chat box any questions that you have. Let me do my 5 minutes, and then we'll have more conversation, especially with Evelyn leading us. She's really the expert here. So, like I mentioned, we've done research. This is based on data that we did last year with Meta in about 4 countries: Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, and Senegal. And we were looking at what is it that is bothering stakeholders. When I say stakeholders, I mean from parents to policymakers, the regulators. We have the policy, institutions that make policy, the ICT authority, and all these groups, the researchers in the academia. And you know how it is. When something is bothering most people, then it means it's really the problem or is the opportunity, both ways. And here, as you can see, cyberbullying, it really is among the most researched, the most talked about issue. So I think as you interact and support your children, that awareness is important, and that then you can be ready to see how to help out your children in addressing cyberbullying. And by the way, I think it's not very different from a lot of the things you need to do to support your children as they go out of your home and they're going to experience bullying. So there's a lot of that, and you need to begin, working on that. Never too late. You can always start where you are. Online sexual exploitation. Hopefully you understand what I mean by cyberbullying. At some point, if necessary, feel free to ask. But it comes in many ways, maybe at some point, Evelyn, we could unpack those. Online sexual exploitation, very critical. There's a slide I'm going to share with you on some of those that have been reported, especially in Kenya. What are children experiencing, young people experiencing on this? The other one that is most talked about is how we can use the online space, especially social media and social media platforms, to provide educational services. So there's positive conversation going on. And that is something that, again, you should not remain behind. How can you use YouTube? How can you use, Facebook, all this as a place where you present knowledge for your children? And it's been shown that there is shrinking gap between good, quality education because of those who are able to use the social media and other online platforms. So again, very positive thing. How do you exploit that? That's something we need to talk about. Digital literacy is being talked about a lot, meaning how can you be, a digital citizen, one who completely understands how to navigate, how to manage your rights within that space. Again, very important conversation. I like it that number 5, in terms of order of importance, is parental mediation. What people are saying, and this data showing this, that how you engage as a parent really changes a lot around the usefulness of social media. And there are 2 ways. You can come in as very restrictive parent with saying, no. And that has been shown not to work. I can tell you from very early in this conversation. There is what is called active parental mediation, meaning you're mediating between the use of the social media platform and your child. If you do it actively, meaning you are there, you understand what's going on, and you're able to guide nicely, they're very nice outcomes. A lot of these positive things we are seeing can be shown. Other parents are using, and governments are trying to do this, use social media to promote access to health services. For example, a lot of us have very poor health-seeking behavior, especially men. But there are a number of tools that are emerging on social media that you can do self-assessment, something like mental health. You can be able to check and know where services exist near you. So again, these are very good opportunities. There are parents that are coming together on social media, on WhatsApp and such, to be able to say manage autism. We have special conditions for your children and you don't know how to do it. You can go into this. The other one being talked about, unfortunately, a lot of times from the negative side, is the mental health risks. Actually, when we did this study with Meta, they were particularly concerned with, is there a link between my use of social media and things like depression, things like suicide? And there is some data, not very strong data, perhaps not because we're not doing very good research, I think so. But we've seen even from case studies of people who posted something on social media, and then it was used against them, and it spiraled all the way into suicide. So those are risks that are there. How do we help young people whose sense of I am important comes from so many likes are put against my post? You know, how do we support them to have self-esteem beyond that? Because then it spirals into everything else. You know, I posted this, no one liked. My page doesn't have as much. And so it gets into their schoolwork, it gets into your relationship. And so it will be good to look at how can we do this differently as parents. Then gender empowerment. Again, the gap between male, female, and you know, the discrimination that has been happening is quickly reducing thanks to access to social media and other online platforms. So it is an opportunity to bridge that gap, you know, and I think it's a positive thing that can be used by you as parents. Issues of life skill, you know, just because we are peers, we are able to share skills, to know how we are doing, to feel comfortable in the spaces where we are. I can know how to navigate some things. So there's a lot of opportunity for life skills. Those self-esteem issues can really be built when people are going online and on social media. Business and e-commerce, huge, especially South Africa had a lot of investment on this, very intentional, that we want to prepare our young people to use the social media as the market. That's where advertisements are now being done. How do we prepare people for that? And then the whole question around personal identity and social capital. Who am I? You know, just answering that question and helping young people to go beyond, you know, feeling like they're only accepted based on what they see online. Just a few more things I want to point out is, so how many children are actually accessing the online media, the internet and that? So globally, we're having 1 out of 10 children are accessing internet. And when you look at the second one here, that in Kenya, actually, it's quite a huge number. We're talking about almost 70% of young people are accessing internet. And there's not a very huge difference between the urban and rural. So that imagination that I'm in the rural area, so I'm safe, is not. You know, I liken this to, if you grew in my time, if I had a Walkman, anyone knows a Walkman? You know, then you were the guy. Today, if you don't have a smartphone, then I'm cooked. So every young person will do everything. The way you did everything to get a Walkman, I don't know what it was for you, that was really the thing, but that's how much they will fight today to ensure that they get that. So it's no longer an urban problem or an urban opportunity, if you want to use it on the other side. Again, that social media and social networking is getting very addictive. Not only to young people, I think ourselves too. And that's something that we ought to be able, how do we balance the hours? What skills do we provide on that? Remember, for others, that is where their business, bed and bread, is made. One last one that we picked from a study in Kenya is that close to half of the teenagers using internet and social media are unsupervised. You know, a lot of us parents will say, those Facebook things, man, I don't want to be. But you know what then you're doing? You're saying you will not be able to walk with your teenager, with your young person. So you're not there to guide them. And just like in anything else, the best place to hear information usually is the inner network of a child, the immediate caregiver, the parents, you know, the people they can really trust with good information. So if you're missing, if you're not there, then the world will teach them. If we're in a physical meeting, I will have asked us to point out which of these ones you know. I am sure many of us will only point one or two. So sometimes we are so, what do we call it? You're so sold out in trying to manage Facebook. But man, there are so many other things they are using. It's going to take you more than just policing in the sense of restricting, but rather in understanding and passing the values that will shape how your children move on. So, and this is always evolving. Before you know this one, another one has evolved. Now, we did this in a study in Kenya, in Nairobi, in Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru. And you were asking children, what is this thing that you've done that is, could put you at risk? And a lot of them said, I've sent a friend request to a stranger, or accepted, someone sends you, and you know how it is. That is where the whole thing begins, because then you are completely out of control of what is there. Others have shared text on sexual arousal. This study, of course, was a bit more biased toward online sexual exploitation. You can see 36%, almost 4 out of every 10 children who is using the social media and the online platform have been able to do this. Shared nude photos online, usually quite a big risk, because the moment you share that, then it's used as a blackmail. Others will say, you sent me your photo on WhatsApp. If you don't have sex with me, then I'm going to post it. I'm going to do this. So really, people must be able to know before you press the button, what must I do? Others are going into video, sex and chat rooms using webcams. And some of these are huge business entities, much the same way drug dealers are. And therefore, there must be a lot of awareness before young people and ourselves go into some of these spaces, sharing on videos and sexual grooming. So these are some of the risks that are emerging. I think I want to stop it at that and invite Evelyn. Do you have some quick comments, or, and then go ahead and take us into the tools?
I think for me, quick comments would be, I feel so much for the children when I see those statistics, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who suffer the repercussions of the footprint they put on the internet. So when I see those things, I mean, I'm always telling them, please pause. Before you send, please pause. Is it going to make a difference immediately? What is the consequence after? And you start seeing their wheels spinning, because when they start thinking about 10 years from now, when they start thinking about 20 years, then they start having a different type of conversation within themselves. So I think it's good for us to help them through that process. And that's what I'm hoping to achieve in my presentation. I'm going to talk a lot than share what I have here. So the topic is children and social media. Can we avoid it? I don't think so. At this point, I really don't think so. I also don't think we would have gone through COVID-19 pandemic without social media. Even for us, we would not have survived that lockdown, being restricted to move from point A to point B, being told you cannot go to visit your elderly parents, and then you have to teach them how to use WhatsApp video and tell them how to put the mask. We wouldn't have gone through COVID itself without social media. But I know for very many parents, it threw us in the deep end. It literally just took us from where we were in our comfort zones and threw us in the water, and we didn't know how to swim. But here we are. We are here, and I hope as we proceed and go on, you will get some few tools that will help you to see how you can best support your child in the process of parenting people who are living a very different life than the one that we had. So I know there were the questions that had been asked. Does the online world really have opportunities for our children, and what are the risks? There are very many opportunities, education being one of them. During COVID, we had to plug in online. I know we were all now getting into the Zoom space, a little Google Meet, but a lot of Zoom meetings and Zoom classes. It helped our children to remain active for the better part of the day. But it also gave our children an opportunity to start exploring other things. Sam, I don't know if as you were doing your research, you realized in that space, many children were having phones, but it's because those were the only, if you compare a phone and a computer or a tablet, for very many families, it's the phone that was affordable. Yeah. So we needed them to be in class to do education and to do certain things, but it is the phone that we could afford. So we really kept buying phones without knowing wakitoka class wanafanya nini. Yeah. So of course they are being creative. They are expressing themselves. If you are on TikTok, expression is everything. You have to look for the for the things that are trending for you to be able to be relevant. And I think for us, it's a shift to come and have our children tell us what is actually trending, so that we're able to know we can't keep up. And I keep telling parents, do not strive to keep up. You will not keep up, but you can try and learn. And through the conversations you have, you can ask them, okay, so is this not a dangerous trend? Is this a very helpful trend? And out of that, have conversations, yeah? We are communicating and socializing. I think right now, if you are a parent who travels a lot, technology is helping you still parent your children. And I think that's a very positive thing. You're able to communicate with people. I think I am of that generation who used to write letters. The other day I said, I'm going to write a letter to myself and see how many days it takes for it. I don't know. I know it will take long, but we were that generation of hoping every Friday in school we get letters from our boyfriends and our girlfriends and our parents. That was our time, but we were communicating and socializing the same. Information and research, I think our children have a very easy time. There's ChatGPT, they can just do their homework at the peril of plagiarism, but things are becoming really, really plug and play for them. But it's also a good thing for them as well. I think, as I said earlier, today is our movie night, so entertainment is something that we do together. So watching a Netflix movie or something of the sort, we are also using technology for that. Are there risks? Of course, everything that is good also has its own challenges and its own risks. And one of those is, like, I keep telling people, imagine KOT. And I don't know what comes into your mind when you think about Kenyans on Twitter. For me, palpitations. I'm never sure if I want to go on Twitter. But sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't want to watch news. Maybe I can go and see the highlights of what is trending in my country so that I can pick for myself the news. But I can assure you, every time I go on Twitter, I come out feeling stressed, depressed. I think yesterday I went on Twitter and I told myself, those are 30 minutes of my life I will never get back. I can't quantify what happened, but there's a lot of digital drama that happens on that particular platform. There's a lot of cyberbullying where people are just out of their boredom. They feel they don't like what you posted and they start abusing you. I think I was saying about the threats or the risks. I don't like using those big words because sometimes I feel like when you use these big words of challenges and threats, it can make people feel a little stressed. So there's a lot of bullying happening online. There is, as you were looking at what Sam was presenting earlier, I think you saw a lot of like age inappropriate content. I like to use the word age inappropriate because once upon a time, I think when I was beginning the trainings, I used the word sex is bad in class. I was teaching teenagers and somebody raised their hand and they asked me, what do you mean sex is bad? I'm like, sex is, it's not a good thing for you to do. And those were my words. And they said, so is it really, really bad? And the girl was 14. She asked me, so does it mean adults do bad things? So I paused because I wondered, okay, where are you going with this? Where are you going with this? And I realized at that point, I need to start using the right language to help them understand. It is age inappropriate. This is where I also tell parents, do not wait too long or do not have shock when you maybe hear or see your child is watching porn. Because I know that is one of the things we really struggle with. My child is watching pornography. It's a matter of when, not if. They will watch it. The people who are producing these things are people's children, just like the way you have your own seated at home. So with a lot of love, we need to start looking for the right language, the right attitude, the right temperaments to help us have these conversations. And they're important for us to have them at home. Do not wait to hear there is a conversation about LGBTQ or about sex happening in church, and then you just take your children there and hoping that they're told everything you would have wanted to tell them. They still need to hear your perspective. They still need to hear your voice. So have that courage to start having and especially if you know your child is on social media. Why? A lot of the platforms we have, there's a lot of hypersexualization. For somebody to be able to watch a video for 2-3 minutes, it has to have some hypersexualized content or connotation to it to keep it. Yeah. So have that in mind so that at least you're able to, okay, I'm getting the skills. I keep telling parents, shock absorbers, we need shock absorbers so that they're not, of course, we are going to be shocked when you see, but we need to be, okay, so you saw that. What did you understand? Because you already saw it. What went into your heart? What actions do you want now to do once you already interpreted what you saw? And you always have to have the child speak, because sometimes we also make the situations bigger than they are, and children are curious. So when you say, no, you cannot do that, you know that is wrong, and you go on, and the child was like, by the way, I don't even know, and you can't believe them at that point. So breathe when you find this is happening, breathe. If you have to go somewhere and, just try and put water on yourself or something to just calm down, then have the child explain, where did it come from? What did you understand from what you saw? Because the eye has already seen, and what the eye has seen is going into the heart. Then what action then can we take moving forward? As a country—
Can you view the screen now?
Yes, we are good.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. As a country, I think we are privileged to have certain laws that are helping us through parenting, and things like the Data Protection Act that is currently in play is helping us to safeguard our children's data. I think somebody is trying to be creative, Sam. They want to doodle around, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's
So what are the kind of things do I encourage parents to do? We are all excited. Our children are having certain milestones as they grow, and we want to post them online so that everybody in the world can see, oh, my child did this, my child did that, and they're excelling in this. It is all good. Before we do that, there are certain things I always request, and really out of love. Is your child wearing uniform at that particular time when you're taking that video or photo? Does the school logo show when you are taking that photo? And if you have to post it, you can put like an emoji. I think right now we are learning different tools. You can put an emoji where it shows the logo on their uniform. As they grow older, please ask them, by the way, I took this really nice video of you or a photo of you. May I post it on my platform? Let them have the opportunity to say yes. Let them have the opportunity to say no. And if they say no, please respect them. Like, please respect them, because consent is a very key element when it comes to protecting our children's data. I want you to write down something. And if you have a teenager, go ask them if they know the story of Pop Smoke. And they will tell you the story of Pop Smoke. But allow me to just share with you who Pop Smoke was, because he's since passed on. Young guy, as we used to do old musicians. This is a very up and coming musician who was just before COVID touring to sell his music. He was moving from one state to another state to another state. And then he was renting Airbnbs during his tour. So one night he decided, okay, let me have a party. And he went on Instagram Live and he was screening, he's showing people that he's doing this party. Accidentally in the background, he showed his location. And because it was an open party, people kept streaming in. And the people who were streaming in, unfortunately, were thugs who came, robbed, shot, and killed him, among even his bodyguards and some of the people who were in that party. That was his end. That was his end. That is the end. So I keep saying that even for our children, we are allowing them to go to malls, to watch movies, to hang out with their friends. It is okay for them to take photos. Can they post those photos way after they have left that mall? Are they able to even not say, I am at this point doing ABCD, when maybe they are just alone as teenagers and there's no adult supervision? And even if there is, there are times children can be pulled away from the groups that they are in. So we need to start looking at privacy and security very, very seriously. In the house, you're taking photos. What is behind? What is being seen? What doesn't need to be on the internet? Because you are actually showing a lot of things that maybe some of those things do not really necessarily have to be online. Sam has shared statistics about predators and grooming. These are the games we are allowing them to play. Or maybe you have not even known that your children are playing games. It is the chat box. They're playing online games. They're on this open platform, and then somebody says, oh, I like you, Evelyn. They will ping me on direct messenger, and then they tell me, let's open a server. Then we start chatting away from the friends we are playing with. And that is it. Groomers start looking at children's vulnerabilities. They will ask children where you are, and if they find they're within the same location, they start offering them these things, and see, when can I break this child for them to give me the information I need to maybe kidnap them, to groom them, because predators do not have the best interest of your child at heart. So at this point, we need to start looking at, okay, are there things on my social media about my children I need to start removing? Are there things that I feel like I need to tell my children, if you're playing this game, please lock the chat options, but play in open spaces where people can hear you. When I'm walking through the sitting room, I can hear and I can see what you're doing. Am I able to start saying, okay, from today, maybe no phones in closed rooms. We just have open use of technology, depending on the ages of your children, of course. Sam, you can go next. Yes. One of the other things I was asked to make sure that I say, again, I'll keep saying, I'm giving you hugs right now, really big hugs. The common mistakes that parents do as we are trying to manage our children in this age, one of the things that I found many people do is mark time. Why are we mark timing? Yesterday I was with Sam. Sam told me, oh, you know, my child was doing this and this and this. And I listened to Sam, you know, venting. Maybe I did not have an answer for him and I just left it. I did not even think, what if Sam's child was my child? Or I didn't even think, but Sam's child talks to my child. Isn't that peer-to-peer influence? We are mark timing. We are sitting and just waiting for something to occur. We really don't know what is occurring, but we are waiting. That is one of the biggest mistakes that parents are doing. To this, I keep saying, get out of that comfort zone, send yourself to start looking for information. And I'm not saying snoop, I'm saying look for information, meaning when you're creating intentional time with your family, have eye-to-eye connections to your children and ask them, instead of asking them, by the way, how was your day? Because they will tell you good or bad, depending on how it was. Ask them something like this: what was the best part of your day? See what spins in their head. Who made you smile, or who made you cry, or who made you feel like you're not worthy something? You know, whom did you sit next to at lunch? What did you eat at lunch? You know, what you're doing is you're unpacking. You know, mommy, I sat next to so-and-so and they were eating with their mouth open, and that is not good manners. And somehow you realize you used to have 10-minute dinners or 10-minute breakfasts. You're having such lengthy time. It's because people are now thinking. Like, just ask somebody today, what made you smile? Imagine, first and foremost, you will see them smile. Like, they will have this genuine smile, and then they'll be like, why did that person make me smile? And it's such a conversation starter. Stop mark timing. Start anticipating. Did I tell you that your children will watch age-inappropriate content? It's a matter of when, not if. Start anticipating. Don't wait for the fire in your house to happen. If you see smoke somewhere, know it is coming. So start looking for ways. I think, if you can, try this feedback. I don't know how you can do it, but try and see if you can. We need to start taking relatively intentional positions. And by say, don't wait for your children to ask you for quality time. Make that time happen. Yeah, make that time happen. How are you going to make that time happen? Don't plan it. You're driving with your children, put off the music, start talking to them. You are having something in the house, let it be as unplanned as possible, but have engagement. And engagement here, again, I'm going to teach you another tool, and I hope you keep grabbing the tools and you can write them down if you can. I need you to go and start finding out what are the love languages of my children. Also, find out what your own love language is. And the reason why I always ask parents to do this, it's because, for instance, my love language is quality time. Normally, I just want people to spend quality time with me. Off your phone, let's engage on topics that will edify us. And as we are there, we are having conversations and time. Another love language could be gifts, quality time, gifts, touch. You know, find out what your child's love language is. If it is about quality time, what do they like to do that you can plug in, do with them, and see how it spurs a conversation so that you are intentionally building a relationship with the child. On Wednesday, I had a talk and I kept saying, don't bring in rules before you create a relationship with your child, because those rules, they'll stick for a very short while. Start creating a relationship. When you're putting the rules with a lot of love. When you're punishing your children or you're reprimanding them, reprimand them with love. Always make sure you're telling them why you're doing what you're doing, because of course we cannot live a life without reprimanding our children when they do wrong things. But did you take them through a process where they know, by the way, what I did was breaking trust, what I did was breaking the rule? Because if your rules are not clear, then there's a lot of gray area that they can play around with. Don't feign ignorance. Again, it is that thing of mark timing. Please do not feign ignorance. And also don't play victim. If you're not on TikTok, I'm not asking you to be on TikTok, but if your child is on TikTok, you need to start understanding what is this TikTok. I'm not telling you to be on TikTok to post anything, but as a parent who has an under 18 child, being on TikTok for you means you can pair your account with your child's account so that you're the guardian of that account. If your child is spending too much time, you can lock that time. If your child is being bullied, for instance, or they posted something and you see these comments are going to make my child have some mental health or self-esteem issues, you can block the comments. Being on TikTok for you who does not want to be on TikTok means let me read the community standards so that I'm able to help my child understand what their responsibility is when they're on these platforms. So engage. Do not play victim. Mimi sijui huyu anasema nini. There is Snapchat, there is TikTok. Your responsibility today is find out which platforms does my child have. Are they of age to be on these platforms? Do they understand what is required of them? That takes time. You have to go through each platform and find out it's age 13 or you're not supposed to do this. All those are in the community standards. I will be sharing a space where you can see what those community standards mean. A mistake that we do is that
Evelyn, I don't know whether you will have a chance to talk about some new information we have about Meta or Facebook use and the age.
Yes, the one for 10 years.
Yes.
Okay, so I will loop it in somewhere. All right. Engage. We are not engaging adequately with our children because I do understand the economy is really, really tough. It is, but you don't need to have 50 minutes with your children. 10, 15 minutes of uninterrupted quality time is more than enough to bond with them before they go to sleep. Look for one meal. I keep saying, just look for one meal when you're all together. Sit without your phones, have conversations. We are also missing the importance of seeking to understand our children's world. We are the grown-ups. What that means is we can come down to their level, eye level. What are they seeing from where they are? And then as we are seeking to understand what their world has, because you and I played Kati, we played Blada, we played Brikicho, those ones we played. They don't have those things. That doesn't mean they're not playing. They may be playing different games, or those same games have gone online and they have taken lives of their own. Get to understand what their world looks like, what it means for them to be on these spaces, how they feel if they are not on these spaces, so that you can better help them. But seek to understand them so that they can understand you. I do know it would be very hurtful for you to see your child's naked videos or photos online. What does it mean if you were to see? Help them understand the repercussions. You're not shouting at them, you're helping them through. You know, unlike you, unlike myself who was growing up without these things, I was able to protect my privacy in certain ways. Now, when you post, it might be sent to 1,000 people whom you don't know, and it could have repercussions. I think you can see how that conversation can go a little different when your voice is calmed down, when you're having sobriety, and when you're helping them to understand that the experience you want them to have online, you want it to be as positive and as safe as possible. Of course, if you can, and when we are teaching, I always keep reminding our children, when they go online, they cease just to become Kenyans or Tanzanians or Ugandans. They become digital citizens, which means they are global citizens. Yes, you are bound by the law of your land, but when you go online, there are so many other cultures you will interact with, so many other religions you will interact with, so many people who may be really opposed to you being a Christian because they don't believe in Christianity. And those are the spaces where that bring a lot of that digital drama we were talking about. Because somebody said, I'm having a tough time. And on the comments, somebody said, let's pray for you. And then somebody's like, why are you praying? And I think you have seen, even for us adults, we have a lot of this happening on social media where people just don't respect everybody's opinion and everybody's belief. We need to start helping our children, but we need to start from ourselves. Of course, not being intentional with making time. I beg you, in a week, try even watch a movie with your kids, even once. You can make it, if you don't really have time, make it once a month. If you can make it weekly, please make it bi-weekly, but start having 1 day a week or some time that you can sit and watch movies with them. I'm going to keep sharing tools where you can pre-screen these movies. And for me, I'm not going to tell you don't watch the ones with LGBTQ, because if you watch them, you will still find something to talk about, yeah? But before you watch these movies, go through them and find out what is it that we are installing in ourselves. Is it edifying? Does it align with our values? Does it align with what we believe in? And you can have conversations with your children. Number 2, when you're watching those movies, please put your phones away. Because you might pre-screen a movie and you see, oh, it is age appropriate. Oh, the theme is not bad. But there are certain things when your children are watching movies and then they start twitching and then they make a body move. You will not see it when you're on your phone. So be there with them. You're also showing them that you can be in the space that they are in, so that you can stop having this thing of you're old, you're young, that kind of conversation. Hiya, go next. All right. So these are 2 people that I love to call Kenyan parents. But at this point, because I know we are in the East African region, this is who we are, firefighters. Maybe not everybody, but most of us. And I know I have been a firefighter before. Firefighting meaning that something has happened and this is when I'm resolving it. And when I'm resolving it, by then it is already a crisis or it's an emergency. I want us to stop being firefighters, because there are certain things at this moment, at this time, after this meeting, you need to start anticipating. Things about cursing, they will listen from music, they will hear them in movies, they will hear them at the playground, they will hear us talking, we will curse. And before that happens, please start having a conversation about appropriateness, respect, and things that when they feel they can come to us and say, somebody said a bad word, and when I told them, this happened. And you can have a conversation around it. Some of those things are not very, how do I say, they don't come out very well, but I know we do struggle a lot. Somebody is saying, am I the only one who can't hear? Sam, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Maybe they can check their mic. I'm not sure if, they can keep
hearing you. We are hearing you very well.
Thank you so much. You can go to the next one, Sam. I think we need to start having to remove that. It's called a fire extinguisher. It can be very heavy on you. Please put it down so that we can stop putting out fire. And I know I was told to say the tools that we can use. From here, if you read it very quickly, you will not see a lot of technical tools, but I'm going to explain myself. One of the tools that children can use to remain safe is an informed parent, because the parent is the primary caregiver. Above the parent, there is the nanny, the house manager, who is, if not, they spend a lot of time with our children, sometimes even more than us. And please do not feel guilty about that. Then we have the schools, the clubs we take our children to, then of course their society. If you think about it, has become hybrid, because sometimes they're playing football outside and there's a phone. Somebody has a phone and they will access it. So children need informed parents, because children need structure, children need boundaries. They need to be taught how to have boundaries and support. Last month we had a Kenya Youth Summit, and among the people who were there were young adults, people who had just transitioned from 17 to 18. And I think that's a very exciting time, because now they're adults. They felt so nice saying that I'm a young adult, because now they can stop being called children. And one of the things one of them said is, our parents need to learn or to know how to help us create, I think some they said, to create our social circles, like how to create those social circles. Why? They gave an example of WhatsApp. We all use WhatsApp for communication. And at the status level, something that you will put to last 24 hours, if your child does not feel that you are in their social circle, they can post whatever they want to post and decide you will not see it, because they've already identified you as not part of their social circle. So I want everybody to see except, and then they keep picking the people whom they do not want to see. So at some point you're like, oh, but my child doesn't, they don't post anything. And then people will be like, are you sure? Because status yake, I keep seeing and seeing and seeing. and you are on the other side. Children need informed parents. And from that information, you will help them to create a structure. You will help them to create boundaries. I do hope we can help them to learn how to make friends. I don't know how you vetted people when you are becoming friends, but I know everybody, even unconsciously, we have a vetting process for people. But we also need parents who can support. And by support, and you can see number 10, I've written grace, 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 and more grace. The reason I've written that, it's because when we hear there are people's children who are committing suicide because of a lot of negative impact of social media, that could be your child, that could be my child. Children who are self-harming. You know, I saw sometime one girl who showed me her hand and she had cut herself. And the only reason she showed me is because the hand was becoming septic. So she needed medical help at that point. But she kept feeling, if I cut myself, I'll stop feeling this emotional pain I have. I'm inflicting it on myself to feel physical pain. So that, because they don't know what else to do. They're having a lot of trouble, and maybe the people whom she should go to do not understand or would not understand. And that's why I say, please do not feel guilty if some of these things are happening. It is a way for us to say, I'm going to stop overreacting and listen more. I'm going to stop giving my own opinions based on my own understanding and my own experiences, and start listening more to understand what it is they're going through. Integrity and ethics. I'm going to talk about integrity mostly because there are people who will say, my child was watching something on TikTok live. And every time somebody tells me that, I'm like, that is not possible. Why? When your child puts the right age on TikTok and they put it as a minor, by default, that account is private, okay? What does that mean? A private by default account for minors, they do not have access to live. They do not have access to direct messenger. They do not have access to be discovered. Somebody will not go and search a minor, Evelyn, Kasina, and go and find them if the age was put correctly, because private by default has been put to safeguard children from having adult experiences. Integrity comes in when your child wants to get into these platforms and they lie about their age. And do they lie about their age? That's why they're in school learning mathematics. They will lie about their age. Integrity. The late Professor Magoha kept saying, we cannot police morality. Even Ezekiel Mutua has said that a lot of times. We cannot police morality. Our children need to understand the reason why I'm allowing you as a parent to be online is to be part of the community where other people are socializing. However, your account has to be put in the correct age so that you can remain safeguarded, because that is what these platforms have done to ensure our children are staying safe. When they start becoming older, we start improving the conversation around what is the experience they want to have. But we all have to have integrity. We need to start understanding those community standards. And believe me, I'm going to keep sharing these tools so that you're able to see, if my child is on Instagram, where are these community standards? What do they say? And in short, it is just that the community standards are always tell us, be decent, be respectful, be appropriate. I keep adding to my children. If you're going to be ashamed with what you're putting out there, don't put it. If you're going to be ashamed with what you're going to say, don't say it. If you don't need to hit somebody, even virtually, because you're feeling like a keyboard warrior, you don't have to, yeah? If it's going to make you feel shame or guilt after, just pause and let that feeling go, because I know sometimes we have those feelings. It is your responsibility as a parent or a guardian to ensure you have read the community standards and the guidelines that have been set. Subsequently, and I'm going to use an example of M-Pesa, because I know M-Pesa will affects most of us because we use it to transact. When we have bought phones for our children, before they had this specific SIM card for children, we would go and register our own names and give our children these SIM cards. Have you ever thought if your child was to commit a crime using that line, who will be reprimanded? It is the owner of that SIM card, the person who registered that SIM card, which is you. Because even sometimes you would not want your child to really have those very serious reprimands the government would put down on them, because that card has done something illegal. So the same way you're telling your child, now I'm ready for us to have a conversation around being on the internet. Can we start one platform at a time? Which one did you want to go into? They'll say TikTok. Okay, let's go and read. What does TikTok do? What do you want to be doing there? Who do you want to connect with? You're helping them to understand what they're creating, and then tell them what your expectations are. You as a parent, my expectations are, these are the consequences. If these consequences are violated, these are the levels of reprimand. Be very clear, don't have gray areas. And when you're reprimanding, remember I said, make sure you say the why. This is why we are doing this. You're taking away their privilege, you're taking away their phone. You need to be very clear, because we had agreed, you broke trust, you have to rebuild trust. A conversation that is going that way. We need to understand their rights to privacy. Children need rights. And this is where Sam had told me to talk about the snooping thing. We are normally very tempted as parents when we see our children, oh, they're seated at the corner somewhere, they're smiling, they're giggling, they're laughing, and you're there wondering, who is this who's making my child ignore me, or who is this making my child happy? And because maybe you don't want to ask them at that point, wakiacha simu mahali, you go and start snooping. Does snooping have its benefits? Yes. But I do not want you to go to snoop if you do not have shock absorbers, because what you're going to look for in your head, you're probably going to see it even in the most innocent of texts or innocent of memes. And they have language that will mask the conversation. They can be abusing you in a text. They will show you, and you will have no clue what they're saying, because they will use emojis. They will use abbreviations, which you have no understanding. But if you're going to snoop, have shock absorbers. Snoop only if what you're seeing is going to help you build a relationship with your child. And if it's not, start building a relationship outside that snooping. Create trust outside the phone. And snoop only if you have seen that your child needs extra support to have a guided experience online. If those three things are not being fulfilled, please achana na snooping, because you're going to give yourself more stress than required. However, I want you to keep pushing responsibility to your child. Push it. Push responsibility. When they're posting nudes, when they're sexting, because they're dating online, by the way, when they're sexting, they're posting nudes and all this kind of stuff. Imagine, tell them they're responsible for that data. It is their data at the end of the day. When you start having that conversation, you will see they're being a bit more careful with what they're doing online. You're helping them to vet their friends. You cannot be sending every single person who tells you, I like you, I like you, I like you, or sending them naked thighs and stuff like that. But I also want to challenge this, because I know even we struggle with that as adults, sexting and nudes photos, and you start seeing people have leaked things here and there. But I want to share with you a platform, another tool. Please write it down. And I think some, if you have somewhere you're putting them, we can share them as resources at the end of this training. There's a site that was launched by the Missing Children in collaboration with Meta called Take It Down. What this site does, you put any inappropriate content of children up there, and then it becomes a hashtag. So if somebody either steals your phone or your videos and photos and stuff like that, they cannot cross-post or cross-share those photos with anybody on platforms. It is a safety guard. I shared that information with somebody in a guide, these counselors, school counselors, and they said, but aren't we encouraging children now to start creating and posting photos there? There is a space for that conversation. However, even you as a parent wouldn't want to see your child's photos, them being exploited because of something they did out of innocence, something they did because of a friendship that went south, something because they did because they were children. We want to keep them as safe as possible. That is not to say there are people who will not abuse them. There are people who will abuse. But if 90% of children are able to be helped by using such kind of platforms, please let us encourage them to use. I need us to start understanding what the law requires of us as parents, and that is self-explanatory. Can our children start having strong passwords? Yeah. Can we start thinking about how safe engines look like? I'm going to share resources where you can see step by step on how to do some of these things, so that when you're having these conversations with your children, you're acting, number one, you're informed. The last one is grace, 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 and more grace. When your child comes and tells you something happened online and I participated in it, before you start shouting, please, grace. Once upon a time, you are a teenager like them. How would you have wanted to be treated if something were to happen in your time, similarly to what is happening to you? So have grace, because even they are going through a terrain that they do not know how to navigate, okay? Next. I hope I'm helping you. I'm not stressing you out. I hope I'm not stressing anybody out. I really hope.
We are together. We are really with you.
Awesome. What tools can parents and guardians use? Value-based parenting. I think what you're doing here is trying to also see how, based on the values, your values, I'm a Christian. This is how I'm going to raise my child. These are our values. And this is what I always now prompt parents to do. So you know your values. I know you know your values. Integrity, all those good things that we keep. I think in mission statements, if you are in business, we have those very many good words that we use on mission statements and value statements. Do your children actually know what your family values are? If they do they know why you stand by those values? If they don't know, that's your starting point. There's a time I told my children about, when I was teaching them about integrity, but mostly about time, it's because I was raised in a military barracks. And in a military barracks, but people don't wait for you. Things are like this. Any time you're standing somewhere, you hear the national anthem is being done. Even you who's a civilian, you stand at attention, you wait for that anthem to finish, then you can proceed doing. Things are done in such an order. And I grew up with that order. So for me, I do believe when somebody tells me we are meeting at 8, I will be there 10 minutes earlier, because that is being on time. When I come on time, I'm late. And when I am late, that is simply unacceptable. And I've lived with that principle. And I try to teach my children that principle. When they're getting late, I always tell them, you're disrespecting yourself and you're disrespecting that other person, because those are our values. So tell them why you believe in what you believe in. It may seem silly to you or to other people, but there's no way you're going to tell your children to be honest when you don't know why honesty is a value for you. You don't know. So you need to start interrogating yourself. Another tool that I'm going to send is our website. It has so many resources for parents, for teachers, and for children, so that at least you're able to see if it is the community standards we are talking about, where you can find them. I'm going to post that, and my website is there. You can still feel free to write it down. On that website, you will see what is there on number 3, the family centers. If you don't have time to go through them, and you have a moment you would want us to chat, Akia will help you. Please feel free. We need to start having relationships and genuine connections with our children. We are social beings. We are wired to connect. Paying school fees, buying food, making sure there's a roof on top of your head is not the bare minimum you can do for your family. We need to connect. Do not put rules before you put relationship. Create a relationship, then start putting rules. Yeah. Create structure and boundaries. Today, there's somebody who asked me what I do, and then I told them. They say, my child is always watching TV. Every day he gets home, it is remote. Where's the remote? Where's the remote? I don't know if that happens in your house, but I was very shocked. And I asked them every single day after school. Then they asked me why. I'm like, my children don't watch TV until Friday. Because in our house, we have a blackout until Friday when they're in the school season. When we are off school season, we have a different screen time schedule. I'm happy to help you create one, because we also need our children to stop having lifestyle diseases. And they will have lifestyle diseases if this is what they're doing all the time. Binging and watching things all day. They need to go outside, get sunburns, fall, do whatever it is, interact with human beings instead of just interacting with screens. Give them structure, give them boundaries. When you create a rule, have a consequence, but make sure you have exhausted the why. When you say
Evelyn, I think on the website, there's a spelling error, right? Give minute.
Okay, please put it for me on chat. Sorry, put it for me on chat. Yes.
Okay, give minute. Okay.
Yes, thank you for that. If you're going to tell your child, and this is something my daughter keeps prompting me, Mommy, don't make promises that you cannot keep. I'm going to come today in the evening and we are going to do ABCD, and then evening comes, and then, and then parents as adults, I don't think the word sorry comes out very, very naturally to us. We don't apologize for not keeping our promises. Please follow through with what you say you're going to do. If you're going to reprimand your children for breaking trust or breaking a rule, follow it through, because they need that structure. They do. I keep telling my children, the world out there is not very kind. We need to start teaching them how to build resilience, communicate openly. And this is not about shouting. It is not about raising your voice. If you start hearing your voice going into another tempo, call yourself for a meeting, jitume, and then Calm down, then see how you can proceed with that conversation. Seek to understand to be understood. Samuel talked about crossing the street. We were all taught how to cross the street. We were not told not to cross the street. The terrain our children are growing up in is a little different. You and I used to play with people physically, which meant if there was an injury, it was a physical injury. But tulikuwa tunatukanana bado, we used to push each other's boundaries and stuff like that. But because we used to stay in the same places, our culture was almost similar. Now imagine for your child who is playing with someone in Japan, playing with someone in Russia, playing with someone elsewhere. And I'm going to start explaining to you how things have changed. They meet on social media platforms and somebody only sees from here, right? You're seeing my face and I can wear makeup and look however I want to look like. And there's one time a friend of mine, the child came to me and told me, I had my first heartbreak at 14. And I told them, how did that feel? Because in fact, I wanted to tease them about it. But when I saw it is something that I'd never dealt with before, I took aback and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. So what happened? I met this person online and they were not very truthful about who they are. And because we were only just meeting and seeing each other, when I saw them, they were a dude. I'm a dude. How was she a dude? And that, that conversation, so you can imagine your child who is getting into the world of liking boys and liking girls, the opposite sex. And then somebody likes them and they're of the same sex. And then that is their first heartbreak. It can be even for you, it is very disorienting because where do you start? But I want you to start thinking about the nuances of what is happening. We all know that things are changing in such a high speed. Go back to your values. Go back to your values. But also let your children know that some of these things will happen. When they do happen, I want you to create an environment where they can come to you. Safe, conducive environment. Mommy, this happened. Daddy, this happened. And you can have a conversation around how you're going to proceed. Again, I keep saying grace. That's why I said grace and timely wisdom. Shock absorbers. Grace, because some of these things, even for us, sometimes as practitioners, we really don't normally know how to get the right words, but somehow we will walk through that conversation and that journey with you. Open communication, just seek to understand their world. It is really different from ours, but remember you are once a teenager. So when you're navigating that terrain and you're thinking, hey, Manze, you want to tell me my daughter is liking another girl in this way, what does that mean? Seek to understand first, so that when you're guiding them, even through biblical scriptures and through the word or through your values, then they will start understanding you because you're coming from somewhere. Yeah. So I wanted to share with you something that I use as a soundboard. This is my soundboard. And I want you to look at your children in between. If you have more than one child, name them. Feel free to name the children in between the names of each of your children and their ages. But I want you to realize that you're the number one primary caregiver, parent, first line of influence. The nanny, if you have a driver, if you have a watchman, those are the people who are within that home circle. They come there. Yeah. So if you're going to talk about values, I hope all these people actually do understand. I'm one of those people who will always tell parents with love, if you want my children to come for a birthday in your home, I hope there will be no adults drinking alcohol, because if it's a children's birthday, please feel free to serve us tea. Please feel free to serve us water or whatever beverage the children are drinking. And I'm sure they're not drinking alcohol. Why? Once upon a time, I took my daughter to a birthday of their friend and my child came home high. And I felt so guilty because the father was trying to tell me, it is because you took my child here. He was so annoyed because my child was literally high, because parents were drinking alcohol in tumblers that looked like the similar tumblers that children were using to drink a soda. And so she was drinking Fanta blackcurrant. So she kept drinking. I don't even know why she didn't realize it was tasting weird, but she kept drinking. At the end of the day, my child was, yeah. So primary line of influence, it is even your friends. If your values don't align, and I keep saying, it is okay. It was good to know you, but we cannot proceed from here. Where you're taking your children, it is your responsibility to find out. If my child is going to a computer lab somewhere, what are the rules that have been set so that they are being kept safe? Children are going for school trips. Are teachers taking photos and posting them on social media? Then I'll just see my child somewhere. Yeah. What safeguards have they put? It is your responsibility to go and find out. And realize that now their social space has become hybrid. Yes, they will have physical friends. They're creating more and more friends on the internet. It is through social media, it is through gaming, it is through they were playing as friends in school, and then those friends brought other people, which means those people are strangers. And so how are we helping them to vet? And that's why I said, please look for a vetting mechanism so that you can help your children to start identifying. And I keep telling them, when you're playing a game, ask the most stupidest questions. But then, did you see that emoji? Or you will fish out parents, or you'll fish out an adult who really doesn't understand the language children are talking. And that's how you start telling your children, that's a red flag. If you ask somebody a stupid question based on a child's level, that's how you start flagging. That is not a child you're talking to, that is probably an adult. And then now the government, the social media platforms, they come number 4. So with all the love and respect, when the Department of Child Services is coming to tell you, Chief, we are taking your child, just imagine how many levels have failed that child. The parenting level, the school level, the society, we have failed that child by the time the government is coming to take responsibility, because we still belong to this country, and the government of Kenya still has, it has party to your child, yeah? So when you look at that, realize that there's certain things you need to do within different spaces, so that if you're taking your child to a sleepover, or you're taking your child to a birthday, the same way you tell the people there, don't give my child food that has this ingredient, or don't give them this, is find out who has phones, what are they doing, have those kind of conversations, yeah? Cool. I think I am towards the end. You can go next. There's this very nice parenting class that I've called Jitume Unplugged. We are unplugging from the online spaces, and we are sending ourselves Jitume. And I think maybe we all speak Swahili, but if you don't speak Swahili, Jitume in direct translation is send yourself. And this is a parenting class that really, what I have done is within a session of 6 classes, created a curriculum that will help parents to know what to do. And this is soft skill. It's only one class that I actually teach parents to go through social media, and I've realized really we all need help, yeah? So I still sit with you and go through the social media platforms together, but this is how we can communicate. This is how we can set boundaries. This is on how we can parent our children, because we have to also acknowledge there are people who have gone through divorce, people who have gone through separation, people who have departed because of death, and you're maybe parenting as a single person, but there are other people within the ecosystem who are trying to help you. The class is really to help you come up with skills and tools and information to see how best you can apply them in your parenting journey. So sending yourself is an initiative to learn. What I do say is, when you're dropping the guilt, do it today, do it now, but put down that fire extinguisher. We need to stop putting out fire. We need to start seeing where our children are. And if you can do a very quick mental math, and maybe you can type on the chat box, think about all the gadgets that you have in your house that are connected to the internet. You will find maybe there are 6, 7, 8, 10, right? If you can do that mental math, also tell me how many toilets you have in your house. You will realize you have more gadgets than you have toilets. Yes, it's a reality. You have more internet-enabled gadgets in your home than you have toilets. That's a reality also in Africa. So that should say something. If you bought data bundles anytime soon, the other day I just bought data bundles, and I realized there's a specific segment of data bundles just for TikTok. If Safaricom is pushing something like that, that should tell you something. Who are they pushing? Because I think I saw it is data bundles for an hour. You can buy for 50 bob, get this kind of bandwidth just for TikTok. Just for TikTok. *54#, angalia, you will see. So sending yourself is also making sure when you're driving and you're walking and you're seeing something is being advertised, how does it affect how I'm parenting my child? Because maybe it is a product that my child will consume. So if it is, how are you going to learn to make sure that the experience that they have on that platform is safe, or it is as positive as possible? Lastly, please don't have guilt. You are where you are, and it is okay to be where you are. If you have a child who has not gotten onto social media yet, you have a better chance to start raising them in a way where we can get into social media together. But if your child has already gotten to that point, we can put a pause and start doing an inventory. When we do an inventory, what are we saying? Can we start reestablishing a way that we can navigate this space carefully? I want to trust you. I want you to trust me. You're telling your child that, show it by action, and also just let them know I'm also learning. Maybe you're like me, who's just on Facebook. I love Facebook because I can talk and talk and talk and talk. And I want to learn what is interesting about TikTok or what is interesting about Snapchat. I really don't want to be in there, but I can be part of the process. What does this mean? You're parenting alongside your child. That is what I want you to start doing. Parent alongside your child. They will teach you, you will teach them. They will teach you, you will teach them. There's something that I keep saying, and I know it gets me into trouble. This is my last word. You cannot be your child's friend, because there are very many things we put demands on our friends that your child cannot, or you cannot put such a demand on your child. You can be their friend when they become older, when they become parents. In fact, at that point, when they become parents, you'll be like, are you taking me out for dinner? Yeah, you're paying. Cindy, good. And when you're there, you will talk and talk and talk like friends do. But at this point, and especially when you're putting things, tough measures, really tough measures, like, maybe your child goes to the bed with the phone, and now you want to withdraw that luxury. Maybe when you're going to bed, we want to put our phones somewhere so that people get to sleep and have quality sleep. So I'm going to stop us from carrying our phones to the bed. That is not going to be a very popular rule that you put. However, it is a necessary rule to put. And at that point, imagine you cannot be your child's friend. You have to remain the parent. So be the parent now. You will be their friend later. I know that that particular point always gets me into trouble, but I can assure you, you cannot be your child's friend. Sam, I'm going to take it back to you. Let me see if there are questions, but I'm going to take it back to you.
Well done, Evelyn. And I mean, when you have these classes that will actually take you several weeks to sit in a class to learn being said in a few minutes, it can only point us to where we need to go to and find out more. I'm scanning through to see if I'll pick questions, but I'm not sure if time will allow us. Let me perhaps just share my screen with some of the bullets from my own notes. Again, just like any sermon, and thank you for being the pastor today. We we often take something very different from such a sermon. So I believe everyone has picked their own, but I think for the first one for me is just what the scriptures say in Proverbs 1:20 onwards, that wisdom is in the street. And we've got to get out and be very intentional on learning and knowing what tools we can use to support our children. So guys, we can sit back. I think some things were not written exactly the way they are in the tools, for example, that are provided in some of these platforms in the Bible. So you've got to go out there and learn also and do it. I think I picked digital footprints, really being able to tell our children that everything I do. And indeed, when I hire people in my organization these days, one of the things you do is go to their social, try and understand their social media. What is it that they post? Because it tells us many more who they are for real. So you can imagine if they just posted that very unconsciously, it can be very bad. So having your rules, I think what I like about this, which is very consistent with the scripture, is that most of the things that we are required to do in our daily parenting still applies here. Okay, and I like this one. Stop mark timing, conversation. Whatever happens to us, eventually we are human beings and we are social beings. So the more we feel respected, the more we feel appreciated, the more we'll go to that space whenever we are in trouble. Whenever we want to make serious decisions, we'll go back and consult in that space. Have we created that space? If you've not been doing it, you can start today. I had someone say, for most men, we will say, let me wait until the boy is a teenager, the girl is a teenager, then I'll come in. No. We need to start when they are in the womb. But, it's never too late. You can always start from somewhere and say, sorry, my child, I did not know this. I want to come in. I think being able to say sorry is a big, big plus for people. Create opportunities for conversation, movies, and everything else. It's really great. I think I like what you mentioned, that analogy. We are not telling children, don't cross the street, but rather we are saying this is how to cross safely, because they have to cross the street at some point. We all have to do this. Evaluate the inner circles of your children, and that the children, depending on how much you've invested, can also kick us out of their inner circles. And by the way, why we shouldn't have even so much guilt is it's also a good positive thing as part of human growth. You need to get to a point where your children begin leaving you out, because that's how they grow to be adults and become themselves. If they're always stuck with you, just like that bird that tries to fly and it's not allowed because it may fall, then it will never fly. So it's a great thing. Let us be ready to learn. And that bottom line, grace, grace, grace. You know, it reminds me of Proverbs 22 verse 6. Train the child, and you know, they will grow in that way. They will not depart. And let me tell you a very brief story outside this, but really relevant. I recently met someone who really gave me a great testimony, and she gave me permission to share some of this. Of course, I can't say so much, but she grew up in a very strong Christian family. And when she went to college, she met friends who took her into drugs, and she found herself in drugs, dropped out, and ended up with 5 years of living in the street on hard drugs with 2 children. But at some point, she just said one day, something just told her, you know what? Be like the prodigal son or prodigal daughter and walk back to my parents. And these things we are saying here are those things that will ring in the mind of a young person one time. They will say, no, that's not the values we had. This is not the right one. And they will be able to come back. So grace, grace, grace on yourself, number one, grace on the child. I want to take it back to Mike. Is there anything you want us to emphasize? And Evelyn has provided a website. You can always contact us, contact me, contact Mike for more one-on-one. Evelyn organizes this at a small fee. That's how she pays her rent. So you can always arrange this, even at your workplace, you know, with other family, others, you know, groups that you have for parents. And I'm sure the more children who are brought up with great sense of self-esteem and are able to navigate the online safely, the better we are as a human race. Mike?
Wow, wow, wow. This is amazing. Really, as in, it's beyond what we bargained for.
Yeah.
This is beyond what we bargained for. Thank you, thank you, thank you so, so much. Maybe my wife has better words to say thank you.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much, Evelyn. This has just been amazing. I sat here and at some point we couldn't even write. We just were listening, you know, just listen. It was just amazing. I've picked so many things. I've agreed with so many things. I've really appreciated the knowledge. I think especially when you are telling us that we need to be informed. We need to be informed. I'm one of those parents who needs to be informed. Yeah, because these people know quite a bit, and I cannot assume. I cannot just assume. I feel like you've really woken me up, you know, with some things that it's so easy to just assume, you know, like when you were talking about the child is locked in their room and yeah, it's so easy to just let them.
And they are laughing and you get irritated.
You get very irritated instead of finding out what is that, you know. So you are just actually speaking what is happening in our homes, what is just actually going on. So we really appreciate. We've had to keep talking here and saying, wow, that is, yeah, this one we need to work on, this one we need to do this, we need to do this. So we appreciate so much. I have really appreciated when you've talked about grace. Because it's easy to be very irritable, very angry. I think as we deal with these people, especially the emerging adults, those people who feel like I'm an adult, but also they are not adults, so they're somewhere finding themselves. And it's easy to feel like if you ukisikia umetosheka enda, you know. But yeah, just telling us that we've got to be gracious. We've got to be gracious and just, yeah, so I've appreciated, and also be gracious on myself, because it's also easy for us to be very guilty. I think that's the other thing. You know, there are many times there are those thoughts that keep crossing, you know, you're like, gosh, am I a good parent, you know? Yeah, right now we have a child who keeps saying, I'm not your friend, you know, and we keep realizing, you know. Yeah, so that was so good to hear.
We are being manipulated by friendship.
Yeah, they are manipulating. You know, so it's okay not to be friends. One day they will appreciate this. So this was really, really awesome. We appreciate that you could be able to come and just share with us this wisdom, because and just as Sam is saying, this is worth money, a lot of money. I know we could be paying so much money, but you are willing to just come and share with us. We are so grateful, and I know that I'm sure we will keep sharing and talking more and more. Yeah. So thank you for this, and thank you, Sam, for just the sharing, and I liked the I think I could when you showed us the different spaces the kids go to, the YouTube, the
Yeah, all those channels.
Yeah, I was like, what?
I only know like 3 or 4.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Hey, all this is happening. Yeah. So, and they know, these people know these things. So yeah, this is really eye-opening. Thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate. Yeah.
Wow. I'm just wondering, Evelyn, were there any questions? You could maybe just pick on 1 or 2 that maybe were outstanding, because I know we don't have time, maybe another time, but if there was any question that was very striking, maybe you could.
You'll have to help me because I'm now trying to.
Okay, then maybe Sam will go through the chat and we see if there is.
Yes. What are the steps as a parent can I take to undo the damage done to the relationship with the child because of overreacting to their social media use? By overreacting, I mean snooping, yelling, confiscating the phone. Okay, that one I would love to answer. First and foremost, I think this is Harold. Yes, first and foremost, please apologize for that snooping. You cannot build a relationship without trust. So acknowledge that you overstepped. Even if there was no boundary that had been set, you overstepped something. You overstepped the privacy. So take it upon yourself to be gracious to apologize. Mean it, and if you don't mean it, don't apologize. Call yourself for a meeting in terms of, so what I want you to do is ask yourself what you overreacted to. What is the thing that made you overreact? Yeah, there must be something that made you yell. Is it they were not listening? Is it they were using the social media as opposed to something else? You need to identify the trouble that you want to deal with. Don't cluster it to, what did you say? You clustered it to their social media use. What was it? Because there's something that you saw they used in their social media that made you agitated. So please identify that, then now start seeing how you can unpack it, because I'm sure it is something that you'll realize there's fear in there, there's guilt, there's anxiety. All those things you can try and identify and see how to deal with them. But first things first, apologize. If you cannot apologize genuinely, don't apologize. I have written my number. Should you want to have some guiding coaching questions, I'm happy to help you. But one thing I want to say around confiscating phones, never confiscate your child's phone without explaining to them why you're confiscating. Why? If you look at that ecosystem that I showed you, you're not the only person who gives them access to technology. You're not. So you will take away the phone and it will be in your eyes. At the playground, there's somebody. Your nanny is in the house. Watchman at Apatua's 550 bob, 200, they will get avenues. Your children are looking for any way to circumvent the system. So if they don't understand why the structure is there, imagine you will put all the parental controls in the world you can put, but they will still look for that reason. You nisende kwa social media kwa nini? And that is what will keep pushing them, because children are curious. And if they feel like they're missing out and you're not understanding why they're missing out, taking their phone is really not a solution at all. Guide them, start guiding, start putting boundaries, start putting structure. I'm happy to help you with that. But I'm also going to appreciate you for acknowledging that you have a relationship that you need to build. So please do your best to build that relationship. It is like when you break a plate. There's one time my daughter broke a plate and I told them, even if we put hot glue gun to put it back together, imagine it will never be. And that doesn't mean if we put it together, it will not be beautiful. It might actually even be more beautiful than how it used to be when it was whole. sometimes things have to break for them to take a different shape. So if the relationship is damaged, start putting glue and see how you can mend it to be something beautiful. But I acknowledge you and happy Father's Day on that, by the way, and all fathers who are around here. Happy Father's Day. I don't know if there was another pressing one. I don't know. Sam, one more, just one.
I was also looking at the tool that was completed, but I think a lot of them were comments and some areas that people want to learn a bit more.
Okay.
I think you've captured it well. A lot of them were comments here.
Somebody is talking about passwords and the teens and having their gadgets. What would you say about the password thing?
As the teens use the gadget, is it okay to inform them not to put passwords on the apps they use?
Do you have passwords in apps?
Yes, we do. Very complicated ones.
Monkey see,
Yeah.
monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah, they see us. Huh?
You need to find out what if they're hiding in those apps, and it will not, the answer will not come from snooping. Please, the answer will not come from snooping. So the apps have passwords because of security reasons, but what a monkey sees, a monkey does. So I'm going to share my number again. I'm going to share my office number again. 39.
Yeah, it's needed.
I hope it is that one. Yes. Yeah. Asante sana. Asante sana. I hope
Thank you, Evelyn. That was really awesome. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Yeah, migraine or a headache, but yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow.
Okay, Mike.
Okay, wow, this has been wonderful. Yeah. Really wonderful. We are just so grateful. Thank you once again for offering to come and just give of yourself to us. The information has been very loaded. Yes, Evelyn.
I have a Facebook group. Let me just put it on the chat. You can join also. So because I'm posting things. If you're not a person who reads, you like short, so you can join the. Yeah, it's called digital.
Okay, that would be great. I'm sure many of us. Now that you've enlightened us on being on the advantages of social media, I'm so sure that many of us would benefit. So once again, brothers and sisters, this has been an evening worth spent, and I know that we've all gained in one way or the other. I want to appreciate the organizers of this, and just the great time that we've had. Sam, thanks so much. We had no idea who Evelyn was until you came into the picture. But now we've really grown close, and we are going to follow her closely.
Yeah.
We're going to follow her closely. So thank you so much for adding to our circle of friends, a very resourceful woman. And we strongly believe that we are going to benefit together. We'll be glad to partner with you in other areas. So thank you so much for this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, brothers and sisters, I know it's been some time before we did our parenting classes, but we are going to give you a schedule soon on how the other topics we are going to be doing. So keep looking. I know we are, majority of us are in the members group of Raising the Next Generation. If you are not, you could inbox me your number. Then I'll add you to that WhatsApp forum so that you also keep updated with the next generation classes that we always have and the things that we always have. And again, if you have any ideas of making things even better, we are a family and a village. Together, we can scale walls. So we always invite your inputs and your ideas.
Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, Sam. We really appreciate. Mbarikiwe sana. So let's go to God in prayer. Almighty God, we want to thank you so much for this evening. Thank you. We feel so blessed. We feel so encouraged. We feel empowered. We feel wiser, even as parents, to know that, Lord, you've chosen us and you've given us tools that can be able to allow us to be effective parents. Thank you so much for using Sam and for using Evelyn in such a wonderful way to be able to impact knowledge in us. Thank you for the knowledge that they've learned and that they can be able to share with us, even just knowing and understanding and learning the mistakes that we easily make as parents, being uninformed, being parents who are not there. God, I just pray that you'll be able to guide us and help us even as we strive to work on being these great parents that you've called us to be. I beg you, God, we know that the world we are living in is not an easy world. The world that we are living in is full of hurt, pain, and just a lot of wickedness. I pray that, God, we can be able to stand out and allow our children to also stand out, and that God will be able to empower them and just try and strive to be the parents that you've called us to be. Thank you that we can learn all this, Lord. We feel so encouraged, God. Thank you for really just allowing us to be here today. I pray that it will not go in vain. I pray that we can be more gracious with ourselves, with our children. We pray that we will not fall into guilt traps, but that, God, we can be able to just allow you to use us and to create trusting relationships with our children, and give us patience and everything we need to be able to raise them to become the great next generation that you desire for them to be. Thank you. We love you. We praise your name. It's in Jesus' name we pray and believe. Amen.
Amen.